Talking of which, Erik Ten Hag's found a winning recipe at Manchester United. Let's get his post-match reaction on sealing a top 4 place.
Well, Erik, first off, the objective tonight was to secure your place in the Champions League for next season. How satisfied are you to have done that?
Yeah, of course, that is so we finalized the season, and that was our objective. We achieved it, and that's usually in this league because there are many competitors who also have the same objectives, and they have all good squads and teams. So when you achieve it, it's a massive performance, and we are really happy with it.
I mean, Chelsea were one of the sides that were expected to be challenging for a top 4 finish with you this season. The performance tonight to beat them so emphatically, how special was that?
No, I would not say so special, but I think it was an open game, and I think they're already preparing next season, and they were quite relaxed. They play with an open mind, and that is always difficult to play against because they create some chances, but also they give away a lot of space in the breaks, and we should have scored more, but to be fair, they also could have scored some goals.
Yes, it was an open game. Did that suit you on a night when you knew you needed at least something to get yourselves over the line?
Yeah, but it's not my game. It's too open. We have to defend better and not allow them so many chances. And also in the breaks, we could have scored more. I think we could much better have done that. But yeah, of course, in the end, we don't complain about that. We are in the top 4, and that is the most important from tonight. I think it's a big compliment for everyone here in this club.
I want to ask you about a couple of your players, in particular Casemiro, who got the early goal, which settled any nerves, and then came up with a genius assist to make the second goal before half-time possible as well.
Yeah, again, he played a great game. I think also the free kick from Christian Eriksen was also fantastic. But yeah, that header and the first goal in a game is always so important. And on Saturday he had him, and now again. So yeah, really happy we have him.
And Marcus Rashford now has 30 goals for the season in all competitions. The first Manchester United player to do that since Robin van Persie. A wonderful achievement for him.
Absolutely. But yeah, you mentioned Casemiro, you mentioned Rashford, but I can mention 4, 5, 6 players who played a great season. And yeah, we're really happy with their progress.
And what has this done for you, securing Champions League qualification in the manner that you've done it tonight, with 1 league game to come, but also the massive cup final on the horizon as well? Has that given everybody a confidence, a lift in confidence ahead of hopefully winning another piece of silverware?
No, this was the most important, to get back into the Champions League. This club belongs there, but yeah, you have to achieve it in the Premier League. And you have to fight for it, and we did. So everyone can be happy with that, and now we can focus on more.
Yeah, when he says everyone's happy, that includes Paul Scholes. That was his 40th win in 60 games in all competitions. Great return for his first season.
Yeah, brilliant. As I say, he's turned the club right round. The old discipline, the feeling around the club is much better. And we feel like, well, we don't feel like, I think we know we're going in the right direction. Way of playing. And that's the most important thing. A club like Manchester United, you know, there has to be one boss. You know, you get the impression he is the man. He is the boss. We are playing for him. If I don't do what this man wants me to do, I'm out.
More quality to his team. Not because he has no quality, because it's the reason, because of the numbers of the games are going to go up. Because the Champions League and the Premier League and then the cup games that you have, you need the numbers and also the quality to achieve it.
And it continues United's incredible home record this season. After that opening day setback, they've been unbeatable since.
Unbelievable, yeah. They had to make it a fortress, and they've done that. That went a little bit. Obviously, they lost the first. That's it, 27, 28 games now unbeaten at Old Trafford.
Premier League.
And if you're going to challenge for trophies and league titles especially, you've got to have your home form right. You've got to make teams fear coming to Old Trafford. And I think it's coming back a little bit. I still think teams are getting too many chances, as we've seen tonight. Yeah. Chelsea also had a lot of chances, but United have been quite lucky in some games this year and have managed to score their chances, and the other team missed. So I still think they have to tidy up on some things at home, but no, the signs are promising.
And what will Frank Lampard make of that tonight?
Look, there were enough opportunities. That's what Paul said. You know, like there were a lot of opportunities, but still, I said before the game, I wanted to highlight that too. It was like it was too open. You know, when you go there, you don't be that open. You don't give them so. Look, you know they are, as a side, they're more advanced because that's why they are at the position where they are. But still, keep it compact and just wait your moment, because they got the opportunities. If you don't take them, okay, that's another story. But away from that, don't give them that much. And I felt like Chelsea gave them too much for them to really get into the game. And it was 2-0. And then the second half, it opened wide open. You could see the stretch was too big.
Bruno, you had the trophy already. Now you've got top 4 to go with it. Does this confirm this is a really decent season for Manchester United?
Yeah, it's decent, as you said. It's not perfect because we want more. But for what we did this season, I think it's great. One trophy, we get the top 4. That was our goal after we saw that we couldn't go for the Premier League. And now it's about finish the league well and go to the FA Cup and win.
How important have these guys been to you? How important has Old Trafford been to you? This is where you've driven on from and got a lot of your results.
Obviously, it's been amazing for us. We have won many games at home. I think they've been creating a great atmosphere for us, so they know how important they are for us. So I think you could see during the season how important it was in many games. So we just appreciate all the effort they have been giving.
You're popular.
Yeah, I know that.
And you making Champions League obviously means Liverpool doesn't, which is perhaps not one for the players, but it does mean a lot to them.
Yeah, we know that means a lot for us, obviously. It's about getting our goals, completion, so we did. Obviously, we know that they'd be happy also for Liverpool to not be there, but for us, it's not about that. It's getting the best we can for ourselves, because we have to look at ourselves.
We're not too far away from the spot where you won the penalty. After you scored it, what happened? It kicked off a little bit.
No, nothing. I just celebrate. Nothing was a goal.
Enjoyed your goal.
Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated to not get my goal. I had a big chance that I missed, and I was a little bit frustrated, just that.
How important is that cup final now? I mean, look, all FA Cup finals are important, but with it being City, with them going for the treble, it feels a little bit like you're also defending the club's legacy.
No. We have to think, and as I said, it's about winning the trophy for us. Obviously, we have to take the trophy away from someone if we want to win it, but we're focusing ourselves and winning our games, and we want to win the FA Cup. It's a great competition. We know that it's really important here in England, and we want to win it. Just that. Obviously, we know if we win it, we ruin the option for the City doing the treble. We know that it's important for them, but for us as a players, it's about getting another trophy.
You know what I mean? It's not
been their style.
It's not the agenda, no. It's not where they want to be. But from last year, it's progress. They've got into the Champions League. They don't want to be playing on Thursday nights, Tuesday, Wednesday in the big competition.
You know all about Ten Hag's credentials. Has he matched your expectations in his first season at Manchester United, or has he exceeded them?
No, he definitely maxed them in the sense of, I know him as a person. He's very calm, and he's always moving and thinking about the next step. Like, as much as this game is finished, he's already thinking about what's next. You know, and sometimes you go like, coach, take it easy. He's not like that. He will sit in the bus and sometimes analyzing already the next game he's got. So going back to what you guys just talked about, is that, okay, he got into the Champions League. His mindset is like, okay, I got into the Champions League, I won that cup, now I got the other final. He's focused that final, and he wants to win that. And it's not like, you know, sometimes people will go like, oh yeah, but he achieved that and this and that. No, he comes from Ajax. At Ajax is pressure of you have to win trophies. Bigger than what you have at Man U, but it's similar in the sense of you got to win something.
Yeah.
For him, it ain't no different that he came there. He knew the expectation, maybe the pressure was different because it's a bigger size, but the expectation is the same.
And what will it mean for him to get into the Champions League?
For him, it will mean that, you know, it's also easier in the market. When you come in the market and you have something like that, okay, the club you have, because that is the support you have. But now you put on the table, we play in Champions League. Come on, any individual, it doesn't matter who you are, right? Yep. You come in and you look at it, you go, Champions League? Well, when I was a kid, it kept me away from school because I had to travel. So that was already one thing. They said to me, they called me, they're like, Mario, you can't go to school because we're going to leave for 3 days. I said, okay, I'm coming.
That's the benefits of entering a team so young, to be honest. But, you know, this is a team that's clearly making great strides. And I suppose the FA Cup final round. Is it not for United now? If that's his focus, it's if not to win the FA Cup, but to deny City a treble.
Yes, it has been.
Which is a bigger motivation. That's the other thing.
It has been on a few people's minds in Manchester. I can guarantee you that. But That's not his objective to stop. Well, it's his objective to stop City on that day because he wants to win a trophy. Of course he does. The treble's a totally different thing. Manchester United, they will be focused now. This is giving him a chance, I think, to rest his most important players on Sunday. Now, I say that, he doesn't tend to do that.
No.
He normally seems to stick with them.
And you think that's been a risky policy to use at this stage?
Yes, I do. And I went back to early in the season. I can't remember who it was. I think they were beating somebody 4-0 with half an hour to go. I thought, right, take Casemiro, take Shaw off. Rest these players for these bigger games, these Seville games that were coming up. But he just doesn't tend to do that. He likes to play the same players who are winning. As he's done tonight, again, he gives them a chance. He doesn't drop. He doesn't like to change a winning team, does he? Which I totally understand. But I think on Sunday...
But isn't it security? Is it not security? You know, when you know as a coach, you know like what I'm going to get. Don't you want to stick to that?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But I think he has to...
There's got to be a moment when you veer away from it.
No, we talk about the intensity in England and how many coaches, how many of the great managers resting players all the time.
Away from it.
No, we talk about the intensity in England and how many coaches, how many of the great managers resting players all the time for these seasons. I look back at that and think, you know, there could have been times when he took Casemiro out of the team, took these players who are the more experienced. I think Casemiro for 7 or 8 games towards the end of the season, apart from the last couple of games, was a little bit quiet, a little bit tired. It's knowing them right times to take people out of the team.
But that's when you've got to place your faith in the backroom staff, the physios, to know who's entering that red zone, right?
Oh, no, don't.
You don't.
Let's go deep, man.
That's just watch him with your eyes. He knows, but as I said, it's very much like Pep, and I think Pep was the same at Barcelona, the same as Manchester City. When his team are winning, they very rarely change anything. And look, it's great if they carry on winning; it doesn't change it.
But do you think he's got his fingers burnt because of Anthony as well, going off injured? He's just got to be careful.
Look, sometimes you can't. But you've got to play at the time. You just sometimes you get a little bit unlucky, and he's been unlucky tonight with Anthony, but. He's got some good players to come in. You think of Rashford coming off the bench. I think Sancho is looking as good as he has done all season. I'm a little bit sorry the season's going to end for him. He's looking fit, he's looking trim, he's looking quick, and he's looking confident as well. So I think he could come into that final. The other part where I think about naivety with them, you know, them big games where they lost, them big results where they lost away from home. He needs to put an extra player in midfield. I think he went into them. He likes. Well, Mario might tell me differently. But he's a very attacking coach.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He wants to. He almost played Casemiro and 5 attacking players against Manchester City away, against Liverpool away. And I think at some point you have to learn against them teams. I think against City at home, he played an extra midfielder. I think Fred came in. They won the game.
Yeah.
Maybe has to sacrifice a little bit of his attacking philosophy to just shore things up a little bit.
I'll tell you what, Mario, we'll come to you.
Just talking about standards a little bit before the match as well. It's quite a big thing to say, really, to talk about the standards of the club and the players. But have they dropped across the board?
Well, it's a simple thing to say, but any team that wins or consistently gets results in the Premier League has them as a base, because without that, the tactics do not matter. You can't get that far, doesn't matter.
What are we talking about with standards, Frank?
Well, training well every day, trying to improve, being a real collective unit, and there are some variables for the players. You know, everyone talks about this big squad. I understand that it's hard for the coaches this year at the club. I get it, because I've lived that for 9 league games now, 8 league games now, whatever. I've lived that. So sometimes you can say maybe that is a factor, if you want to call it an excuse. But as a player, you have to put that to the side and focus on your own game. And since I've been in, I've understood quickly that some of the collective standards, and it's for the individuals amongst that to realise who they are within that, what they do. And this is not a blanket. This is just we have to find the reasons why the club is where it's at. And there are many. This is not a finger point at the players, because I think that the players there's definitely not a lack of effort on this evening. But you build up the credit through your training and your prep, and you build up a resilience. And you know, I was fortunate enough to be a player here for many years, and this is not me talking about me. This is talking about the group. When you can look next to you and know that person has worked on their standards, and everything is there to rely on each other. And at the minute, you know, like we're in, it's a bad year for the club, and many clubs have these kind of years when we've had massive success for for the last 20 years or whatever. And the important thing is that you get to the bottom of how it improves, and it needs a reboot. It needs, and the club will move on in the summer in terms of what the squad looks like and those things. But as a Chelsea player, with where we want to be, then I think generally everything has to be improved and to get to the level.
Yeah, I heard you say the other day it's not something that you can just turn on like a tap. So how big a fix is ahead? This is probably the last time we'll really get to hear from you. So as honestly as you can, how big is the job in front of the club?
Oh, it's for someone else to take on, isn't it? So I think things can look very different. But, it's one of my things to come in without a pre-season to try and assess players and all those things. It's probably not the moment now for me to start giving all my opinions on all the details behind, because I think that would be straight off the back of a game. That's not the time, and it's probably words for behind the scenes, but the reality is it'll be someone else's decisions and by moving forward, and a pre-season and a start and a look at the squad is imperative as far as I see, but again, those decisions are not mine.
And lastly, do you think you'll come out of this season a better manager for a really successful football guy? It's been a hell of a tough season.
I don't know. I mean, if you ask me what I've learned in this short period, in terms of coaching, not so much, because I think if we haven't got that base of the things I've spoken about in most of this interview, then back five, back four, three in midfield, two in midfield, those things are not so important, because if you as I say, when I talk about training a lot, I'm talking about building up an endurance in many ways, and if that's not there, then I think from a coaching point of view, there are hard things. You want to come in. I've been in this situation as a player, an interim, a change of manager, and a lot of the plus points you gain are from what are the team fighting for? How can you motivate and find that extra bit? And we haven't found that as a collective, because results say so. So in terms of that, I haven't. And this job is always going to challenge you at different times. Everyone has their version of challenges. So I'm certainly not the victim in this moment. I love working for this club. That's not changed from the moment I've been here. Have I learned much on the football side? As I say, I don't think in this period, and I'll say I probably did here before, and I did at Everton. In this period, it's been more about what I've walked into and what I've seen, and that's been very different for me.
Fascinating interview from Frank Lampard. Not only does it call it a bad year for Chelsea, he says the goal-scoring problems started at the beginning of the season. What else did you take away from that just then, Mario?
I saw a coach talking about the motivation, the extra bit he talked about, and he talked about also the endurance. So meaning like the fitness levels and the way the team is, and also what you want as a player when you come on the field is you want to win. And wanting to win, I always say that saying it and showing it are two different things. And I feel like he has maybe a group of guys that say they want to win, and now it comes down to your body language. Like, how much do you show everybody that you want to win? And I think as a team and as a collective unit, I don't think they have that. And I think there were moments in this interview that I saw Frank talk, he didn't really came out to it, but he kind of said like, next season, he had a big question mark behind next season, because he knew that there's a lot of change that has to happen. So the person that comes in needs to take control from the get-go to making sure that he gets the group of people that are important for the first team of Chelsea Football Club to make sure that the heads is in the right direction and get the players to think like that. If they don't, they're probably going to have a long season again. And this club should not be where it is right now.
Paul, he says a reset's needed in the summer. After spending £600 million, can they afford to? And I don't mean monetary-wise. I mean in terms of having to go through the process all over again.
Well, it is going to be a fresh start for a lot of those players. What I took from Frank's interview was the standards are being dropped massively around the training ground. He mentioned the basics of football. So that to me tells me his players aren't working hard enough. He mentioned that switch as well, where he's saying tonight, yeah, they performed quite well, they played good football at times. And he's saying you can't just do that. You have to have the intensity in training every single day as well. And I think if I'd have gone into Manchester United 5 years ago, I'd have probably seen the same from a group of players that weren't working hard enough, didn't have the intensity. I always remember, I've talked about Rio Ferdinand before, when he came to Manchester United, the biggest shock he had was the training, the standards in training. Playing training every day was like a game. It was probably harder than playing a game. And I'm sure Mario, in his time at Chelsea, when they were winning, when Frank would be comparing training to what he saw when he was a player, when they were successful, when they were winning. It's every single day. It's not just come into a game. You have to be on it all the time, and I think he's saying there that standards just haven't been quite good enough.
Let's have a look at where Chelsea's season stacks up against their lowest ever during the Premier League era. 12th at the minute, their Premier League's lowest is 14th. I mean, they've still got one game to go. Points, they are there right now. Their lowest. Wins, 11. 37 goals scored. I mean, that is noticeably lower than their lowest from before. And games failed to score in is, I mean, this is turning out to be almost on record on a par with their worst Premier League showing.
Yeah, it has to be, because you have a coach that is a midfielder that scored a number of goals for Chelsea himself. And then you have two key players, in Sterling and in Havertz, that both are not like out-and-out strikers, are the leading goal scorer with 9 goals. If you have that in your team, you're asking also for difficulty. I've played in team on both sides in the league, right? The ones that went for a title and the ones that try to stay in the league and the ones that just go for the middle of the table. When you have that feeling, most of the time when you're at the bottom, struggling and it's difficult, that is because you don't have someone that scores so many goals for you.
Yeah.
But when you're at Chelsea, you cannot be in that situation.
But if we have to try and look at some positives for Chelsea, should we look at the chances that they created in front of goal today?
Yes, because they created a lot of chances, and I think some of the guys that were like this one here, Mudryk, like the way he puts his foot down, you feel like, hey, he's an attacking forward. He should have his brain wrapped around it and saying like, hey, this is my opportunity. I gotta take it. Then they get more, like, okay, this is maybe a difficult one, but still, as a forward, I feel like sometimes you gotta be. I almost want to say you gotta be greedy to score. It should not be just I'm gonna do it. This is your forward, huh? And what I'm saying now, I'm not saying that the players are not good that are in the Chelsea football team. The only thing I'm saying is that the things that they have to do is what they're not doing well, and that is the biggest problem.
They don't have a forward, a centre forward that lives for scoring goals. Like when I played with forwards, I'm sure Murray would have done. You think of Drogba, you played with Drogba.
Yeah, I played with Hasselbank.
Hasselbank, yeah. These players did live for scoring goals. Nothing else matters to them. Now these are the lovely footballers, nice football, and they probably look at the way Pep played football and thought, right, we possibly don't need a centre forward.
Yeah, several number 10s.
Yes, but Pep is different. Pep is more special than anything you've ever seen, and gets best out of players playing that way. But this Chelsea team can't, they just can't be successful without a proper centre forward.
You see, and there's a sense of irony. The only goal Chelsea did score was from João Felix, who's a loanee. He might not even be there next season. I mean, I know he's not a striker, but he managed to at least get on the score sheet.
Yeah, the way he picks up the ball as well. Like what Felix has is, that he has the creative part, and then he looks at, can I not set anybody up? Then I'm going to set up myself. Okay, he takes that strike really well. And I always say that, look, when I look at Chelsea, and I want Chelsea to do well, so I'm not sitting here trying to pick every hole that they're looking for. The only thing is what this club and team needs is they need a proper direction and a better understanding. And if you have a player like him, you pick a player up, you understand, you bring him from a team, you got to find a position where he's good at. And sometimes they get changed too much. Then he starts as an outside player, then he becomes a number 10, then he becomes a midfielder, one of the 3. So it has to make sense where you play him. And I think sometimes he shows you what he's good at. And you got either play him there or you don't pick the player. So that's why at the end of the season, we're going to find out if he's going to stay or not.
Who decides? That's going to be the new manager?
Yeah, they have.
Those above him?
If
there's a number of players now, right, at Chelsea who've got pretty uncertain futures. Ziyech, Pulisic, Werner is to come back.
Yeah, I think they're all gone.
Lukaku, Mason Mount, by the way, already today, Frank Lampard's been speaking about him, saying it appears likely that he might be on his way. I mean, that's not very definitive, but it's not saying he's definitely not going anywhere. He's been at the club since he was 8, come through the academy. Can they afford a player like that go, or do they need to keep those style of players?
Look, I like Mason Mount. Does he do enough? I thought when he first came onto the scene, have we got a new Frank Lampard? I know we talked before about not comparing players to these types, but I expect him to score goals, a lot more goals in big games to win your games, and he hasn't really kicked on for me. I think a change of club might not be a bad thing for him. I think if I was a new coach going into that squad, and don't get me wrong, I've been a coach for a very short while, I'd be excited about what's there. I think there's a lot of real talent there.
Yeah.
I think defensively they're going to have to do something. He's going to have to buy a couple of centre halves, possibly a right back, possibly a left back, or perhaps a whole new back four. I'm not sure about the keeper either. I'm not sure about either keeper. But I think going forward, I always look at a team and I'm excited when they create chances, when they can score. I think adding a centre forward to that, they're always going to create chances. And if you've got a team that can score goals, you've always got a chance.
Which players would you build your Chelsea team around for next season?
I think they need to look for the DNA. You know, the DNA is gone at the club now. And you need to ask yourself, who do you want? Like you just mentioned, like Paul said, about Manutd, right? A really guy that comes out of the system that you built. Do you want that? Like Reece James is a young one that you brought in. So you got to now going to look and say like, okay, what's important for us? Because when I came to Chelsea, it was really clear. It was really clear. We knew the captain is there. At that time, it was Dennis Wise. It was clear. He was the core of the team, and we were built around him because he dictated the tempo, what we were doing. And we're not talking about that some of the players that they have now maybe be a different quality or a different player, but it's just that you need your DNA has to be set. And I think that is what they got to look for first before they build a team. Because now they're getting just, like I'm saying, like, you know, you got a chef in the kitchen, right? You like mama's food. Why? Because mama can cook with anything. But now, you come in that kitchen at Chelsea, you almost ask yourself, so many great talents.
Yeah.
But how are we going to make something nice out of it? And that's the question someone has to answer, and that has to be the new